There are days like this when many rugby players never have it, never experience it. It is special. Jim and I have been involved in rugby a long time. I can tell you, these are the things, these are the days that you'd never believe will come again. It has. And I can tell you, I've given a lot of things up. I love my rugby. I love my family. And when you come to a day like this, you know why you do it all. You know why you've been involved. It's been a privilege. It is a privilege. Because we're something special. As you'll meet each other in the street in 30 years' time, and there'll just be a look, and you'll know just how special some days in your life are. We've proved that the lion has claws and has teeth. We've wounded a springbok. When an animal is wounded, it returns in frenzy. It doesn't think. It fights for its very existence. The lion waits, and at the right point, it goes for the jugular. And the life disappears. Today, every second of that game, we've talked about what they're going to do, or everybody else has. We go for the jugular. Every tackle, every pass, every kick is saying to the fucking Springbok, you're dying. Your hopes of living in this test series are going. And on that field sometimes today, all it will be between you is a look. No words, just a look. That'll say everything. And the biggest thing it'll say is, you are special. You are very, very special. It has been and is a privilege. Go out, enjoy it, remember how you've got here and why, and finish it off, and be special for the rest of your lives. Good luck. Go for it.
Our game, if we take it. If we want it enough, and if we take it.
It's demanded today, boys. Total. Come on, the red wall. It's demanded. It's demanded. Well, the great one was to get through it. 40. Look out.
That's how big this game is.
50-50 balls, mate.
Just look across, boys. Look into each other's eyes. Look at yourself and demand everything for 80 minutes.
I'm marching out like one of the gladiators of old into the modern day coliseums, across the whitewash of the rugby pitch at Eastleigh Rugby Club. And now I am not about to run here and run into some sort of contact and try and tackle people. Thank God. Those days are over for me. But this is my boyhood club. And on this first proper day of spring, I decided to take a little detour and pop out here and walk once more on this sacred turf. I'm going to start off by telling you about my storied sporting career. Don't worry, it won't take very long. I was a very shy, introverted, nerdy little child, and I got involved in things like taekwondo and, individual stuff like that. And my dad liked that I was getting interested in sport, but I think secretly despaired that I'd never quite taken to playing any kind of football. He also didn't like the way that certain adults would stand on the sidelines berating their kids for not being the next David Beckham. So, given I'd made good friends with a fella called Adam Kidd, who is still one of my friends now, and his dad, Adam's that is, was in the Merchant Navy and used to play for Eastleigh Rugby Club, Adam had started playing minis down here. And I'll never forget my dad saying, "Oh, you should go along with Adam to his rugby." And I thought, absolutely no chance. Even at that age, I had a rough sense of what rugby was. Well, I knew how rough it was, and that's why I thought, no, not for me at all. So, after some cajoling and potentially being forced a little bit to get involved, I came down here. And I think I'm stood in the exact spot where we would have played our first bunch of mini matches. If you go all the way around to the back, Eastleigh's Rugby Club is on the Bishopstoke Road playing fields, and it goes all the way out to the back. You've got the River Itchen on this side. I forgot how beautiful it was, actually. I always remember it in my mind's eye as just being this muddy quagmire. And obviously on a day like today, with firm ground and the sun out, it feels very different. But yeah, I'm stood pretty much in the exact spot where we used to have our minis matches and of course our training sessions under the lights. And it's quite a stunning scene to look all the way across here. Oh, I'm very, very glad I'm not out here decked out in black, red and gold, ready to get the living shit kicked out of me by a bunch of bigger lads from down the road somewhere like Havant. But the thing is, I learned a lot about being a man through playing this game. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that before I talk to you about today's poem. Sorry, that noise you can hear is the ambulance. They've clearly heard I'm thinking about getting involved in contact sports again, and they're just getting ready. They're on standby. You never really know. Yeah. Or that's just Eastleigh. I think it's more likely the latter. So there's no game on today because it's a Tuesday, and like I say, I'm just taking a bit of a moment here. But a quick hello and apologies. I know it's been quite a while now. My last episode came out in December. I had all these grand plans to do one a month in 2026, and then life just happened, really. Lots has been going on. This new job I'm at is very good, but it's demanding in different ways. It leaves me with a lot less time, and of course I've now got a proper toddler on my hands, and that makes life even more tricky. So today I was able to drop her for a bit with her lovely nana, and while my mum looks after her, I can nip out here and ponce about on a rugby pitch with a microphone in my hand. If any of my former teammates could see me now, I'm sure they wouldn't be in the least bit surprised. They'd probably say, "Actually, Joe, that's the most amount of decent tracking over ground you've done in all the time you ever played." I'm going to just quickly talk to you about what this sport and what this club did for me. Like I said, a nerdy, quiet, introverted kid, stammer, nervous tics, you name it. And I think, understandably, getting muddy, getting roughed up, kind of scared me, as I think it would scare most people. My dad never played the game, and that was the thing. My dad, I think, was quite intimidated by rugby union as a sport, with its connotations of class divide and boys in the clubhouse with their blazers. I think it always kind of intimidated my dad, being a working class bloke from Preston. But I think, and he never quite said it out loud, but I'm just inferring here, I think that Eastleigh was his kind of club, because Eastleigh, for those of you that don't know it, is a club and a town in Hampshire with links with the railway. That's its main sort of what it's known for. It's a railway town. People that lived and worked in Eastleigh were often involved in building or maintaining or working on the railways. But it's still a working class town. It's still got its roots in that. Most people that I know who used to play rugby with, who played for the club at any level, still live nearby. And I do take pride in it. I joke about being a Winchester boy and, you know, all of the connotations that has, but my club will always be Eastleigh. I never pulled on the shirt for Winchester. And I think your first club, your boyhood club, remains true. And it'll always be a bit of an honour for me. I've still got my old socks, very faded now, so I've got my old tie. And if there was ever a time, if there was ever an opportunity to turn out for a testimonial match or something, I'd very happily ref, put it that way. Because refereeing is something I learnt to do later on in life, and it has all the benefits of playing with none of the downsides, because I get to be on the pitch for the full 80 minutes and no one's allowed to tackle me. So that's always nice. But just very quickly, this pitch I'm currently wandering around now is all the pitches have been turned on an angle from when I used to play, when I'm on. In fact, I'm just stood directly, because this is how sad I am, I still remember exactly where the goal line was, where I scored arguably my best ever try. And the longer time goes on, the further out I was when I scored it. But going back to being a little kid, nerdy little kid, one thing that helped with being frightened of everything is that I learnt to be quite fast. And it transpired I'd inherited some pretty fast genes from my mum's side of the family. Both my cousin and my uncle were champion sprinters. And I remember getting the ball and seeing coming up right next to me this gigantic ginger kid who was intent on ripping me limb from limb. So I ran as fast as I could away from him. Thankfully, I was faster than everyone else, and I got to the other end, got underneath the posts, and he'd stopped pursuing me at this point. And because of that, I thought, oh, good job, I've done what I need to do. Everyone on the sidelines going, put the ball down. Oh, right, okay, put the ball down, try, scored. And suddenly, like that, I enjoyed rugby, because I'd found something I was good at. Now, obviously, age group is different. You can be fast, you can be big, you can be strong, you can be all those things. But eventually people catch up with you, and I think by the time I got to be 18, 19, and I was starting to play what then became men's rugby, I very quickly got found out as not being quite as quick as I thought I was, definitely not as strong as I thought I was, and nowhere near as skillful as I needed to be to play the game at any real level. But you know, that's the game. And I think I'm very lucky that I got the chance to play with such a brilliant club as Eastleigh. We were sort of the poor relation in Hampshire. If you wanted to get picked for county, quite often you'd struggle to get picked if you played for Eastleigh in comparison to some of the other clubs nearby. That's the politics of it, I guess. But we were no whipping boys, and I'm still quite proud now that some of the lads that I used to play age group with still, even though we're all in our very late 30s now, still are able to turn out every now and again for the ones, more often the twos these days. But you know, it's a very valuable thing, and I'm grateful for what it told me about being a man and how it taught me to appreciate those friendships. And today's poem is kind of about that a little bit, because I mentioned inheriting genes, and today I'm also inevitably going to end up talking about Huntington's, which is the other gene that I've unfortunately inherited and does nothing for my sporting prowess. So if you're new to this podcast and you don't know anything about me, I'm going to get straight off the bat and say I have Huntington's disease, which is a genetic disease, neurological, and I inherited it from my dad, who sadly has since passed. It means that in my lifetime, my movement and speech and cognitive ability is going to decline. and it will decline more rapidly than somebody of my age without it and with no other pre-existing conditions. So it's not a nice thing to have found out. I found out and was diagnosed in 2021, and I'm still coming to terms with it, I suppose. The good news is my little gorgeous girl shouldn't have it, because we went through PGD. We did a form of IVF to make sure we could have a child without it, because it's 50-50 if you pass the gene on. But all of that to one side, I still have to live with the fact that if things stay the same and there's no breakthrough, there's been a couple of mini breakthroughs recently in the news which you may have heard about, but we're still a way off finding a cure, as it were. And so today's poem is actually, I think it linked in with the rugby setting, because it's also the title of a film came out a few years ago called Invictus, which was all about the combined rise of the South African national rugby team, the Springboks, and Nelson Mandela's return to, greatness, if you like, as president of South Africa. Now, I have got no South African heritage. If you're a South African rugby fan listening, God, I hate you lot. You're all so good at this sport. It's so annoying. But I love the name of this poem because I love the poem itself. And I think it's a poem that you can read any time, but especially when you've had a couple of difficult nights. So I'm going to read it to you right now, and I'm going to read it standing exactly where I once received a really good life lesson on a rugby pitch. I'm going to tell you about the life lesson just after I've done the poem. Invictus. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody, but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears, looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds, and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how strait the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. I remember being stood exactly here, and like a lot of minis rugby, the forwards go and practice things like scrummaging and rucking and mauling and all that nonsense. And the backs have to sit in a circle and talk about feelings. Very few people are interested in coaching the backs properly. But we had some great coaches. I'm going to name them now. I don't think anybody who's listening will know who these people are, but I'm going to name them because they were great men. That was Mike Probert. That was Taft, Mike Whitecross, and Mike Kidd. I don't know the status of all of these men. I know that Mike Whitecross and Mike Kidd both have since gone on to the great stadium in the sky. I don't know about the others, but I do remember being stood there, and we were doing a sort of almost like a gathering the ball drill. Kick the ball down the straight and have someone run after it and slide to pick it up. And I forget exactly who it was. I'm gonna attribute it to Mike Kidd, but it was, that ball is your responsibility. No one else's. And we're sort of looking around going, well, who's he talking to? Which person? He says, it's all of your responsibility. It's all of you. There's a loose ball, and you're expecting someone else to go and get it, and you're the closest to it. Well, then you've messed up. No one else is going to do it for you. You've got to do it yourself. And I think that while it seems like a small thing, that hard-headed, pragmatic approach is something that I just don't naturally have. I don't have it in me, and yet there's something about when I played competitive sport, I think I was closer to myself, because it's really important that, I think, especially both genders, because I think women's rugby is having an absolute moment right now, being world champions, and of course women's Lions still coming up. I don't want to diminish women's rugby, but I can only speak about my lived experience as a man. I think young men are in a tough old place at times, because there's a lot of predatory, horrible people out there trying to con them into believing that they're under threat. They can't be themselves, they can't be men, they can't be aggressive in a controlled fashion. That's bollocks. And in fact, that's precisely what any good sports club, I'm going to use rugby because it's what I know, but there's no hiding place. You can't be an Andrew Tate and go and play rugby, because everybody would dislike you. None of your team would pass you the ball. No one on your team would trust you. The vast majority I've played with are decent people, honest people, because you know what? There's an honesty that you have to have, or you'll never be respected in the game. You'll never do anything in the game. Rugby's a game played on camaraderie, on friendship, and on honesty. And it doesn't matter how good a player you are, there's 14 other people on that team and you've all got different jobs to do. And I think that's where the poem links so well, because it really doesn't matter about all the other stuff. You know, when you are out there, even if you're getting absolutely whooped 50+0, what matters is you stand under your own sticks and you say, right, we've got another 15 minutes here. We can go again. Yeah, we can go again, and we can try and keep them out for this next 15 minutes, even try and get up the other end. It doesn't matter if we win. That's not what the game's about now. The game's about coming out of this with pride, with our heads held high. And that, I think, is a very important lesson in character. And I'm stood now, I'm getting a little bit of a shiver doing it, actually, despite the warm day. I'm now stood right on the first team pitch. And this is unchanged. And standing here just is bringing back so many memories. I've got so many ghosts. I can see my dad on the far touchline. Always the far touchline, my dad, never the near one. I didn't like mixing with the other parents. The older I get, the more I go, yeah, he just didn't want to have to talk to people. He was just introverted. I think he liked being on the far touchline as well, because it meant he had a better view. You know, I think back to when this was the old clubhouse and not this much nicer, sleeker looking design we've got now. And I remember coming down here and everything smelled of boots and deep heat and chips. But I look at it now and I have such fond memories, because this is the kind of sport that I think teaches you to be a real person, to be where your feet are. I don't think it matters about your gender one bit, but as a young man, I think rugby saved my life. And if I'm going to have any kind of a life going forward, I know that the spirit of this poem is part of what resonates so highly with me. Because even if you're going through some absolute rubbish, you know, my head is bloody but unbowed. There is this phrase always in rugby changing rooms of, you know, on me, stand with me, stand next to me, never a backward step. We played games against teams that would come along and absolutely whoop us. Didn't matter how hard we tried. But we always had the mentality of let them know they've been in a game. Let them know they've been in a game. So if this disease is going to come and try and take away the best bits of me, that's fine. It can have a go. But it's going to know that it's been in a fight. And if you're going through anything like this, if you're even going through just some bad times, if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling down, if you're feeling wound up, if you're feeling upset, feel like life just keeps kicking you repeatedly in the nuts, well, all I can say to you is, if you're going through hell, keep going. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. So are you.